Hello and welcome to Masquerade Breach. I'm Blazewing.
I'm Catherine Cosplays or Krisha.
I'm Marley.
And I'm Oceanus Veritas, also known as Cam.
And we're talking about Hotel Transylvania today. But first, don't tell the Camarilla. This meeting could have been an email.
Yeah. The draconic.
Welcome on in. Before we get started with our actual discussion, as always, I have Blaze's list of unfiltered commentary from the movie that we watched. If you'd like to come and watch vampire movies with us, we do that on Wednesday. Talk to any of your hosts. We are more than happy to throw you a link, but you'll have to come and talk to us because we prefer to hand those codes out kind of privately or in person, just to help kind of stem the flow a little bit. But we do movies most Wednesdays. What are we doing next week? Let me take a look here. Next week we are doing Dracula, the Dark Prince. And from what my other half said, it looks like it's something along the lines of... He said it looked like a B-rated movie that wasn't exactly a B-rated movie. It was worse.
It was a C-rated movie?
It is a B-rated / foreign film / Marley loves it and owns it.
Yeah, apparently we were wrong last episode when we said Marley wasn't allowed to pick the movies anymore, and we didn't learn. So, anyways,
this is our FAFO.
It looks like it was made by Smosh. Like a Smosh level budget. But this is like a multi-million-dollar Hollywood film.
oh, I love this for us.
Like,
This
ooh.
it's so bad.
You're welcome.
It's so bad. I don't even know what it is.
We'll get to that next episode. For the moment, give me 1 second while I dig into my unfiltered list of comments, and then we can get into the discussion. He went under the bed? Lol. Wait, who'd he knock up? That looked like the carriage from Dracula. That zombie's gonna need a bigger plunger and probably a raise, too. Hotel Transylvania! SpongeBob needs a paycheck.
Yeah.
I want that scooter. Dracula gets Dad of the Year award. Her bat form is adorable! I want to pet the sky puppy! Holy fuck, it's the nanny. I revised my earlier statement. Drac doesn't get Father of the Year. This kid is annoying as fuck. Okay, fine. Count Control Freak. I revised my earlier revision. Drac gets Father of the Year. And to round it out, okay, the song fucking slaps. Anyways, Hotel Transylvania. Guys, what did we think? What are our thoughts? Who wants to go first? Don't all speak up at once.
Stares at Krisha.
I volunteer Krisha.
Okay. So, this... I don't know if y'all heard this. I may have said it before. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I saw it 4 times when it was in theaters. It was such, like, as someone who grew up with a lot of daddy issues, this healed something for me when I was younger. But also just, so, here's the thing about this film. It ran into so many challenges because Universal owns the copyrights to all of the monsters. So that's why Dracula's cape is purple and not red, because Universal tried to sue them. That's why Frankenstein is blue and not green, because Universal tried to sue them. That's why the Mummy is very round, because originally he was supposed to look like... his stature was a little different. That's because Universal tried to sue them. That's why Frankenstein, the wife Gladys, Frankenstein's wife has only one white stripe in her hair, not two. Universal tried to sue them. This is I believe, the 12th collaboration between, I believe it's Kevin James and Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler, as you guys know, played Dracula, and Kevin James played Frankenstein. Adam Sandler just really was just like, I just want to make a really cute vampire like Halloween movie for my kids. And it's such a sweet, sweet film. I will watch Andy Samberg in anything. Like, he played Johnny, and it just was so, I love, it's so cute. There's a moment that nobody picked up on, and it's when Dracula does his PowerPoint presentation where he's like, refuge from them. These are the recent human images my surveillance was able to obtain. And like he stands on a little like footstool made out of frogs. It's a toadstool. And nobody picked up on it. And I literally was like, oh my god, it's so sweet. And then also Adam Sandler's wife in real life did all of the lines for Martha. It is such a sweet story because there really is no villain in this story. It is a father, a very overprotective father, learning to let his kid grow up. And like, obviously the coming to age story, like love, differences. Also, my favorite line of the entire film is, are they gonna kill me? Not unless they think you're a monster. That's kind of racist. We'll talk later. I say the line probably once a week. Yes, a hotel for monsters. Way to sum it up. Honestly, I'm gonna be really selfish and put Hotel Transylvania 2, because I think Hotel Transylvania 2 might be the best Hotel Transylvania of the group. We don't need to talk about 3 or 4. We don't need to talk about those. But the second movie is like such a great culmination of everything. And they make a jab at Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman.
So, my suggestion is when we do our planning meetings for season 3, you should bring that up as something to watch during season 3.
Oh yeah, the only movie I think I've ever requested was Hotel Transylvania. And so, Krisha, any other movies? Hotel Transylvania 2. Because like, we were talking about all the Dracula movies, and I was like, you can't talk about Dracula and not do Hotel Transylvania. I think, like, is this a cinematic masterpiece? No. But it is such a heartwarming, good movie to watch, and genuinely just enjoyable for all ages. So this movie will always hold a place in my heart.
Let's go with Marley next.
I always have loved Hotel Transylvania. I love all of the actors that are in it. It is always funny. My favorite character is Johnny because I see a lot of myself in Johnny, where it's like, let's just take the dive. Let's just do the thing. This is cool. That's not very cool, but we'll make it fun anyway. Like, the positive spin on so many things, and like, you could be in a life or death situation and a good joke can just make it better. Like, everything gets healed with humor, and I love that. I love the fact that it's also about healing the trauma, because Dracula went through some serious trauma, and this movie is about him seeing things from the other side and getting to heal from that. And I see the appeal of it. I absolutely love it. It is always going to be one of my favorite movies. And The Blob. Let me just say that The Blob is my favorite other than Johnny. Because if you can't have a jello mold that can eat you, are you really living?
I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Um, Blaze, I know this was your first time seeing it. Ocean, was this your first time seeing it?
No.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so from someone who has never seen it before, like I know we're gonna do Ocean next, but Blaze, I'm very interested. Blaze, I'm very interested in your. This is your first time seeing it. Like I want to know your reaction.
We'll get to that. Ocean.
So this movie is definitely a creature feature, a monster movie entirely. It is campy as heck. It is definitely for the kids. It is definitely for the family. And that's exactly what it was geared for. It is something that not only can bring a dark folklore and uh, fictional character that was originally meant to scare people, was extremely charged and derisive towards adults originally. Is one of our first ones that actually brings vampires in a new light, that they're not villains. Um, some things about this movie that really stick out. Obviously, the famous line or infamous line of "I don't say blah blah blah" is a big one. Um, Couple of things. This is a cutesy love story about a human falling in love with a vampire, and it's always like Dracula's daughter or something like that, which a lot of people associate Dracula with this evil like thing, but it gave kind of a spin on it that kind of you know makes you go, oh,
They
that
singed.
kind of thing. They zinged, yes. And it makes for a good story. As campy and cartoony as it is, it's a very, very unique way of taking an old adage and giving it a weird new light.
So, as somebody who has never seen this movie before, first of all, this movie was adorable as shit. The animation style was just absolutely adorable, and I loved it. The story was one we've seen a million times through like a million different movies. Boy meets girl, boy falls in love with girl, shit happens, they eventually get together at the end of the movie, just with the monster trope thrown on top of that. I think there are so many things that they could have done with this movie that would have sent it completely off the rails and just made it fall flat on its face. And I think they hit every note they needed to hit with this movie in this specific context. I think this movie very much earned its place and its, I guess, the people's love for it. One of my favorite, actually, I'm going to leave that for later. One of my favorite scenes, I'll leave that for later. It shows an exploration of relationships and kind of, speaking as somebody who studied communications for a good chunk of my life, this movie shows what happens when the communication falters in relationships, in multiple relationships, not just friendships, but the dynamic between, people who are experiencing kind of that attraction and that love, but also that communication between different family members. Kind of struck me as just a basic underlying look at how quickly things can go wrong. This, for me, brought out my inner child almost. And that song at the end was gorgeous. But I'm sorry, Dracula flying as a bat to catch up with the plane and then hanging on for dear life outside the fucking window? Like, that was one of the most adorable things I have ever seen. Not just that, he took control of the pilot and had the plane turn around so they could get back together. Like, this brought out my inner child in a way I did not expect. It is absolutely adorable. It is absolutely love-filled. And the creators who made this movie, you could tell it was a passion project for them. They put so much love into this that came out in the final product.
Oh yeah. There are some things about this movie that has been kind of a gem. Uh, Andy Samberg, one of the members of the Lonely Island. If you don't know Andy Samberg, he's done a lot of things with Adam Sandler in movies, but this was the first animated movie that he voice acted. And I don't know if this was his first move at first animated series or uh animated film that he's voice acted in or anything like that. But if you take what you know about Andy Samberg as from any other venue outside of it, you would never expect him to be in this. And I think that's what made it really unique was that this was wholesome. This was a wholesome video movie and movie series, if I remember correctly. There's more than one. Um, that
Chinese spy speaking.
One second. One second.
I want to post this.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, sorry. It was just an interesting uh cartoon movie. It does bring out a lot of that, and apparently, from what one of our watchers has said, Xylanth has said that the animation was directed by Genndy Tartakovsky,
Tartakovsky.
who who animated for Dexter's Laboratory and Samurai Jack, which kind of brings a nostalgia
Mm-hmm.
to to me because I grew up on Dexter's Laboratory.
Yeah, you and me both.
I grew up on those like early 2000 cartoons as well as 90s cartoons. Um, so that kind of just solidifies my reasoning why this is a good movie.
So let's shift gears for a moment. We've kind of been over how this movie impacted us, kind of how it approached, how we approached it, how it felt to us, and our first opening thoughts of it. What was your most hated scene for this movie? What scene did you not like the most, I guess, for lack of better words?
That one's easy. It was when Johnny thought he was doing the right thing by turning down Mavis and saying those really horrible things about monsters and just like the heartbreak moment, and you see how how it affected everybody, and especially the way that it hits Drax though,
Mm-hmm.
because once he realizes what he's done, you see that he could have given up and just let Johnny go and been like, yeah, now I get what I want. But instead, it turned out good. But I do not like that scene. Like, it breaks my heart when he just is like, no. You're like,
Next up,
I'm sorry, I don't have a least favorite scene. To me, they're all important. But like I think in what Marley like said, like the most heartbreaking scene has to be just like when he's like cuz you're a monster. I'm like I hate monsters. And you can see that like they did such a great job with the animation because you can see Johnny's like equally as heartbroken. He's like, "Oh, bleh, huh." Oh my god, but yeah, that's it's so heartbreaking because just so much is happening in one go.
Ocean.
Uh, you know, there wasn't any real technical thing about this that really kind of been was like one of those things that stood out as really spectacular. I don't like this. Um, I think everything escalated almost organically for a cartoon. Um, I think if it had been done live action it would not hit as hard. It doesn't have that same wow factor that animations can get away with it, because animation is very expressive in and of itself. So I don't have a scene that really stands out as being, you know, bad or hated. I think I don't um like a lot of the downtime that goes on, I guess. It didn't, but in each of those, again, like what they were saying was um that there was purpose in each scene. Um the runtime may have been a little bit long, in my opinion. It could have been probably summed up a little bit shorter if we're really getting, but we'd probably lose some really really good scenes if that were the case. Um, I don't know. I think the sheep might be one of the ones that I had kind of a stipulation, because he ate all the sheep, or
Yes.
at least it was inferred. It was inferred that he ate all the sheep, and so I'm
Yes.
like, oh no, it didn't. It so I guess the last part really stuck out to me as being kind of the this is weird kind of thing, that very quickly the townsfolk, when he's out there and they're like, we need to get to the we need to get to the plane before it takes off, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. I thought it was very exuberant of the townsfolk to be like, "Oh, he is the real Dracula," and no one's going, "What?" So, I guess there was like a bit of like, I think that might have pulled me out of the story just a teensy bit, with the whole time, "We love you. You don't even know him," that kind of thing.
I'm actually going to side with Krisha on this one. I don't think there was a bad scene in this movie. I think every scene that was there is completely necessary in order to tell the story as it needed to be told in its entirety. I think without any one specific scene, that story would not have held together like it did, quite honestly. So I can't pick a bad scene. I don't have one for this movie, which is odd for me because I love to dissect this shit and just be like, this scene was absolute trash. Didn't need to be there. Toss it out into the garbage pile. I don't have one for here.
No, it seems like it
There's
was very much.
a super silly one. The
I mean,
zombies. The zombies were the super silly with their little masks and the roar and fire. It was so
It's
cute.
absolutely adorable.
yes, but that sets the setting, the vibe of the movie, is that it's not supposed to be taken seriously, and that's the whole point, and that was the purpose of it.
Honestly, that scene had very much Marley energy, I think.
Yeah.
Why do you have a mannequin? Put the mannequin down.
Mm, mm.
All I could think of was Audley and her doors
Yep.
with the mannequin.
Yep.
I
All right.
mean,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say that it's interesting how quickly one can storytell with just the slightest of things to show how controlling Dracula is at the beginning of this movie, because he's like, all humans are bad, and then he's like, I did this because I was trying to protect, and there's a reason, but it's not a good reason, but it is a good reason, because it's out of his own fear, which is really cool.
All right, so let's shift focus for a moment. We've done your most hated scene. What is your most loved scene of this movie?
Oh, I know. The rooftop with the sunrise.
Why?
Because he gave her something that she never would have had on her own. She couldn't see a sunrise without his shadow over her. And the way that he protected her, and Like, you know, the love was there. Like, we all saw the zing first, but the way that it builds up, you just see how he wants to give her something she's never had, even though she is 100 years older than him. He is there just in the moment, giving her this piece of beauty that he gets to see every single day. And it just shows that each of us has something that we long for that somebody else has. And if we work together with good intentions, we can share those things with each other.
Next.
I know.
Yeah, you're good. Take a moment. Cry it out. Who's next?
I love that Mavis and Jonathan fell in love naturally.
Mm-hmm.
That we didn't know what the zing was. And we still don't. It's confirmed in the second movie. But like we didn't no, actually it's confirmed in the third. Whatever. It was so great, and we didn't find out, like, Mavis didn't even know what that was until she read the book from her mother. Like, it they fell in love organically, and Dracula was already feeling incredibly guilty for what he did, and he knew it was wrong, but knowing, like seeing the postcard from Hawaii and like all of that, and then realizing, like, Martha, what have I done? Like, that moment will always hit me, because he's like, what have I become? This is not the man you knew. And just, it's so profound. But like, the falling in love naturally, like, there was so much shit going on.
Mm-hmm.
And yet Jonathan still made the time to give her a perfect birthday party.
Yep.
And even wrote Hawaii Hawiwi.
Oh, wee. I love that. I love that small detail so much, because it's a throwback to earlier in the movie. But
And like, Hawaii-Fi? No, you mean Hawaii. Like, it's just like they fell in, their love was organic, and then at the end, when she was like, I thought we zinged, and then that's when Dracula realized, oh fuck, and is like, I'm going to fix this because I love my kid.
it was at that moment he knew he fucked up. Sorry.
It's okay, so I'm gonna change this a little bit. My favorite, like, gag or like joke, other than Toadstool, was when Jonathan was like, oh, my contact lenses. What? These little plasticky doodads that help me see better. Here, let me just get it out of my eye. Like, he was like, oh, let me make it easier for you to hypnotize me real quick. Let me just take this thing out of my eye. And Dracula's like, oh, that's disgusting. Like, this is a monster. A monster who's killed people, who drinks blood, and he sees Jonathan touch his eye to get contacts out. It's like, oh, that's the grossest thing I've ever seen! Almost got it. Fingers away from the eyeballs. Enough.
Ocean, what about you?
You know, there's a lot of great scenes in this. I think, yeah, the Mavis organically falling in love. I think the idea of, you know, the overprotective father, the you get a vibe with the other monsters in Drac, that they used to tear it up. You know, it was a very much a high school friends got together, or their family. They're like family, so they're just connected to each other in different ways and whatnot. I think one of my favorite laughable scenes is the description of Johnny when he is portraying as Frankenstein, and he's like, "No, Frankenstein's my uncle. He's right over there." Oh, okay. Well, who are you? He's your cousin from your left hand. It's like, I have a cousin from my left hand? I thought that was actually a really fun, entertaining, and jovial scene with how the interactions that they have with each other and whatnot, and just the thing that Johnny brought to the table, where you see, the father being extremely safe and like bubble wrapping his daughter without actually physically wrapping her in bubble wrap. You know what I mean? And Johnny just like, this is boring. We got to do something fun. And every time he just continually amp it up and make it better. I mean, even with a scooter. And then, of course, when they find out that he was a human and they all freaked out, was also pretty fun. Those are a few of my favorite scenes.
I have one in particular, aside from the bat in the plane, which I went over earlier. For me, it was Monster Fest. 100% Monster Fest. So they're like, we're never going to get there in time. We're never going to reach where we need to in time. The only way we can do this is if Drac runs. But he can't do that because the sun's out. So we've got this problem where, Drac's going to fry if he doesn't, if he steps out into the sun, naturally, as vampires do. And then they're like, they roll into town. They see the townsfolk celebrating monsters of all kinds. And then they're like, maybe the townsfolk could help. They don't seem like they're hating on us anymore, like they're forming mobs anymore. They're not out with the pitchforks and the torches anymore. Maybe they've changed. And then they're trying to figure out how to get the townsfolk's attention. And they light a match and hold it up in front of Frankenstein. He's like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. Instant match, instant monster. Everybody turns to look at them. They explain their situation. Path clears. Towels and capes are held up, and Drac just like goes for it straight to the forest. I'm sorry, but tell me that is not just the epitome of acceptance and love and just how much people can change given enough time. That for me was like the number one scene.
The quote from that was, I'm trying to scare you. I'm the real Frankenstein. We know. We love you.
Yes!
Can you sign my torch?
That will forever
That
be.
one that prove it.
That will forever be one of my favorite. I think actually my top favorite scene in this movie, other than the bat hanging off the plane. Because I'm sorry, but that's just fucking adorable.
So the one criticism that is always brought up about this movie is that if Dracula couldn't hypnotize Johnny through the contacts, how the ever-loving hell did he hypnotize the pilot through the bulletproof glass of the windshield of the plane?
A, plot, and B, I don't think the pilot was wearing contacts.
On another level, I believe that I do believe that the windshield of a Boeing 747 or a 737, whichever, a Airbus, I guess, is made of plexiglass, which is plastic, not glass. Different composition,
Okay.
which means it's probably thinner.
But I have a theory now. Maybe it's not the plastic or the glass. Maybe it's a prescription.
That could be.
That prescription was so fucking high. Another theory is that because Johnny was like destined to live with vampires and monsters, he could never be hypnotized. That was like a counter theory to argue about the contact lenses.
I had that thought,
I mean,
actually, not gonna lie.
Yeah, if you look at the zing, that could be part of the magic of the zing.
Yeah, that. Also, if you notice something about Johnny that you didn't know about the pilot, is think the pilot had a fear of bats, which makes sense. So there had to be an element of fear in order for the hypnotism to work.
Also, Johnny is just so go with the flow that the hypnotism wasn't even needed. He's just like, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
But another funny gag where they make fun of Twilight, where it's like, tell me, the in-flight movie, do you dream about being a vampire? This is how we're represented. Unbelievable.
Even in a cartoon, it can be made fun of. That's funny.
So many moments in this movie just hit that right spot. I'm sorry, but like I said, if they had taken any like one scene out of this movie would have wouldn't have hit as hard. I think they knew what they were doing with this movie. They knew exactly what they were going for, and they weren't afraid to show that.
So originally, Hotel Transylvania was supposed to be about Dracula falling in love with a human woman after being like terrorized for so many years. That was like the original plan, but then they were like, no, like they were going back and forth until finally like this is what they landed on, and they made it more of a family story, but also like it's found family
Mm-hmm.
because Frankenstein, Invisible Man, who I could talk about for an hour, just like how they got so much emotion out of a pair of fucking glasses. Liter Also, so Invisible Man, Frankenstein, Dracula, and Mummy, like Murray, like they are best friends, and they've like stayed best friends for like thousands of years, and that is just like, and they're found family, and now like they help each other with each other's kids, like the thousands of wolves in the wolf pack, and then the one daughter.
Comes out, yeah. So the boys are all like roughhousing, kind of just screwing around. They need somebody to do some tracking. None of the kids can do it. They call her out of the bunch. She walks over, just starts getting really fucking analytical, breaks everything down to, things that she can't possibly know. They go completely fucking overboard with that to a point where it's just absolutely ludicrous. And she's just matter of fact. up to and including I think it what seat he was sitting in on the plane.
And what he ate, even
He
before.
ordered the vegetarian meal.
Yeah, like, how?
Well, the vegetarian meal is explainable because you'd be able to smell that on somebody's breath if your nose is good enough. I'm sorry.
Right,
Oh.
but this was after he had lost this thing.
Marley.
I was gonna say, yeah, all the way down to the transmission of the car.
He got into a car, a 94 Fiat. Needs a little transmission work, but otherwise okay. He took him to the airport, got on a flight, such and such, seat this. He ordered the vegetarian meal. But also, just like before that, where it's like, do any of your kids still respect you? Wait a minute. Like, he had to do the dad thing where it's like, what are the names of my kids?
Yeah.
Like, I know I have one. Wait, Winnie! Like, wait, literally wait, there's one. Like,
which is so relatable because I cannot tell you in my family how many times I have been called by my brother's name, by my cousin's name, and by my nephew's name. At nauseum.
yeah, to my dad growing up, I was number 3 because I'm the youngest. I'm the third kid. So eventually, he just gave him. He was like, number 3, like.
Oh, me and my sister, we were born on the same day, 1 year apart. So I was born on her first birthday. Her name is Carlin. I am Marlena. You know how many times we've been called Carlena and Marlin?
Oh, that's great.
That's awesome.
times that I've been Marlena.
So, this was what, an hour and a half movie?
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere around there, like
Yep.
an hour 30 something. I can't remember how many minutes. All said and done, it was a pretty short movie. Hour and a half is by far not the longest movie that we've done. I think we've done up to 2.5, maybe almost pulling a little closer to 3, but don't quote me on that.
2:48, I believe.
We've dissected this movie pretty well. We've gone over a lot of the material within it. We've gone over kind of our favorite characters or the characters that stood out, our favorite scenes. In some cases, our most hated scenes, if you had one. We've kind of talked about how it hit us. Let's jump into a rating. Scale of 1 to 5. How do you feel about this movie? I know exactly what Krish is going to say, but on a scale of 1 to 5, where would you put this movie? How would you say it held up? How would you say it fared, all things considered? Let's just go ahead and get Krish's out of the way right now.
I mean, I was gonna say Fright Night definitely felt like 3 hours or longer.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give.
Sorry.
I gave it 1,000 out of 5. Literally, you are gonna have to pry this movie out of my cold dead hands. I loved it so much.
Who's next?
And I already know everybody else's ratings. Everyone else is 1,000 out of 5 because there's no other score you would give such a great movie.
Who's next?
I'll go 1,000 out of 5 because it is cute. It is funny. They turned all of the little quirks and powers of Dracula into something that is fun, celebrated, adorable. Sometimes just plain, I don't know what that was, but it still happened. So yeah, all the little quirks are there. They tried very hard to make sure that everything was enjoyable, and you can tell you get that many comedians in one place, and this was just brilliant.
Ocean.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not going to give it 1,000 out of 5. I think that's a bit too much. Albeit, I will put for the animation 1,000 out of 5. How about that? But campiness absolutely is full of camp. Absolutely, do I believe that it's amazing to watch this movie. It is entertaining and everything. Definitely something I would recommend, especially for family with kids. To get into the technicals, the minutia of it, do I think it follows the lore? No, not even close. And I'll tell you why.
Hold on, I think Krish has got fighting words.
1, does not drink blood, does blood substitutes. 2, even when burning in the sunlight, he does not die or perish. 3, plexiglass stops all prolonged eye contact.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw this out there and interrupt for a second. True Blood had synthetic blood. And as far as burning in the sun, Nosferatu, the original theming behind that, it wasn't the sun that killed Count Orlok, it was the rooster crowing. So sunlight, for all intents and purposes, is a relatively new thing when it comes to vampires.
Carmilla couldn't step out into the sun.
I said relatively new. It wasn't
Okay,
considered popular
okay.
media.
Okay, but Carmella was emo as hell. So I didn't think she wanted to be in the sunlight anyway. Also, she could go out into the sunlight because she would promenade with, I forget her name. I think it's Rachel. Like all the time. So like don't come at me. This is the Bible thing from this morning. You're really getting me.
There is one other ruling too. Depending on the age of the vampire, depends on how long they can be in the sun. Because that is a lore. That is one of them.
You're not wrong.
Potent a vampire is. i.e., what's that guy's name? The one that played Gordon. What's his name?
Yes, the Dracula who played Bram Stoker's 1992 played Sirius Black.
Yeah.
Gary Oldman.
Yes.
Gary Oldman. Thank you. Gary Oldman does state in that movie as Dracula is like, this really weakens me. This really weakens me. It hurts. I'm not feeling all well. I got a tummy ache now. But yeah, no, the idea here is again, this is my opinion on the thing. Does it follow true to lore? It fudges it. But do I think it was an amazing story? Absolutely. Do I think it's kind of it's a new take on an old adage? Absolutely. So I give this instead of a 10,000 out of 5, I'm giving it 99.9%.
I love that.
And if anyone knows that reference, they would understand Team 4-star. I give it a 99.9% done.
This, I want to give this movie top marks. I really do.
And do it. Do it. No one's stopping you.
Do it. Yeah, do it.
This movie does not get top marks from me. I will tell you why. Okay. There are certain places it doesn't hold true to a lot of lore. It does fudge the rules a fair bit. It is also not specifically a vampire-focused movie. It is a monster mash movie. That being said, a monster mash movie has its place. Okay? What does earn top marks for me is the goddamn animation. But I can't give the storyline top marks. I'm going to say this gets a 4.5 out of 5. Kill me later if you want, but...
Okay, so all of the other movies we've watched, most of them have only had one vampire. So you could call them a human mash movie. Looking at you, Fright Night. Especially there's one vampire and one goo monster. So, there were 2 vampires in this movie, and they mainly focused on the 2. 3 if you count Martha in the flashback.
Excuse me. I have noticed a trend about bringing up my favorite movie, Fright Night, repeatedly.
I would also like to point out, as one of our audience members has ever so eloquently posted in the chat, if I give this movie top marks, I can't go give Hotel Transylvania 2 top marks if you're saying it's better than this one.
God damn it.
Personally, I think Hotel Transylvania 3 needs top marks, but we could also just say the franchise gets top marks. Listen, my blob had a very fun scene in number 3, okay?
That is
Let
true.
me have my scene.
Blobby becomes a full-on character next movie that you guys will see because we're doing it next season.
I'm sorry, but the giant jello mold kills me.
It just brings back nostalgic D&D vibes.
Yeah.
I can't make jello, so the idea of monster jello makes me happy.
This movie, speaking of D&D, this movie very much has the vibes of, this is what happens if you take a D&D group, put them in a building and say, now you get to run a hotel all of your own, and you need to make sure it succeeds. This is the exact type of shit that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Glenn. Go back to sleep.
Like-
Kinda,
Oh
right?
gosh, all the tunnels with the stairs that go to like nowhere. That would be me. That
That's
I'd be in
very
the
D
wall.
and D.
It's
Yeah,
taking
I would be the one in the wall. It would happen.
it's taking elements of all sorts of areas, from D&D to Vampire the Masquerade to
Yep. It does.
Frankenstein.
It pulls inspiration from a lot of different areas and a lot of different media and lore, and I love the way that they made that work. But it is, for all intents and purposes, a Monster Mash movie. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah.
the part where they're going through the tunnels and Dracula just keeps saying, "Please be quiet. Please stop talking." And Johnny is like, "What is it like being a vampire?" Is it true what they say about garlic? Yes, it makes my throat swell. Stake through the heart? Who wouldn't that kill?
All I gotta say is that I now give this the seal of approval with a song. It's the Monster Mash. It's the Graveyard Smash.
On that note, I think this episode's coming to a close. As always, it's been our pleasure bringing this episode to you. If you want to come and watch movies with us, you are more than welcome to. We usually watch on Wednesday nights. We don't hit every Wednesday night. We don't hit every week for an episode, but when we do, we have community watch parties in the Masquerade Breach server. You're welcome to come and talk to any of the co-hosts, get an invite link, and come and join us for movie nights. We absolutely welcome other people coming in. For this episode, actually, you know what? Before I get into that, our next episode is going to be Dracula the Dark Prince, which looks like it's going to be an absolute disaster of a movie because Marley picked it. We'll see how that works out on on Wednesday, which is 2 days from now. For this episode of Masquerade Breach, I'm Blazewing.
I'm Catherine Cosplays or Krisha.
You what?
What?
I'm Marley.
Your microphone didn't pick up.
It did not pick that up. And I'm Oceanus Veritas. Good night.
And remember, don't tell the Camarilla. This meeting could have been an email.